Welcome everybody to this Sunday podcast of Sattology debunking mythology. बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आप सबका जो भारत से जुड़ रहे हैं, जो अमेरिका से जुड़ रहे हैं, हर तरफ से जुड़ रहे हैं. तो आज हमारा हाउसफुल है, सारे महानुभाव हैं हमारे साथ एंड वी आर डिस्कसिंग ए वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक कि ग्लोबल पीस, क्योंकि इज ग्लोबल पीस ए डिस्टेंट ड्रीम. और एज यूजुअल हमारा इंडियन अमेरिकन कम्युनिटी का ये शो है. And every single Hindu group is also involved here. People are connected to different organizations. So please enjoy the show and you can ask questions. It's a live show. You can ask questions and you can share your opinions. So let us welcome everybody. Vibhuti ji, namaskar. And Sharad ji, namaskar. Utsav ji, Desh Kapoor ji, welcome. So ये जो टॉपिक है आज का जो चूज किया गया है बिकॉज सो मच ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट वी आर हियरिंग एवरीवेयर एंड तो ये क्वेश्चन उठता है कि ग्लोबल पीस के बारे में सब लोग बात करते हैं लेकिन इज इट रियली पॉसिबल टुडे एंड व्हाई द ग्लोबल पीस इज लुक्स सो शैटर्ड विद ऑल द थिंग्स हैपनिंग अराउंड अस. तो विभूति जी प्लीज बिगिन द शो.
देश जी बहुत हफ्ते से एब्सेंट थे. लेखक हैं, चमत्कारिक लेखक हैं. आज मैं इनसे कहूंगा कि आज बैटिंग वही शुरू करें.
जय श्री राम के नारे से होनी चाहिए फिर तो.
आपने मुझे you put me on a sticky wicket. Okay. So
I won the toss. I elected to field.
Right. So basically, yes, the situation, the global peace seems to be a distant dream right now. Because of, see, the way I see it is, jab dunya bipolar thi, or like two poles the bipolar, like between US and the USSR and the communist regime. तो बड़ा आसान था डिसीजन लेना. आप किसी भी बैंड वैगन पे वो बैठ जाओ एंड US or USSR will be making decisions based on a collective linear programming optimization model like that was going on. And the decision would be made for you. So it was very simple. And when the USSR went away and US came along, and it was a unipolar world where only US was making most of the decisions. Either you could align with them or you were against them. As George Bush very famously said, either you are with us or against us. So then China came along and created another pole. So it became like that. Another way to kind of put your own vehicle behind somebody's wagon, right? Now, as the world is progressing, specifically after COVID and after the Ukraine war, Dr. Jaishankar has said again and again, this is a multipolar world. When it is a multipolar world, there are no one or two poles which are making decisions. Everybody is making decisions based on their own linear optimization model. And when that happens, then things can go in very, very different directions. One example I'll give: when Putin and the Russian oligarchs and Russian establishment was deplatformed after the Ukraine war. At that time, what was set into motion was something very, very long term, which was de-dollarization. So everybody saw that when Russia was taken off of SWIFT, then they started saying कि कल को हमारे साथ भी ये हो सकता है. जैसे वो रशिया को डी प्लेटफॉर्म किया, ऐसे ही ट्रम्प को भी डी प्लेटफॉर्म कर दिया था, right after the Capitol riots. So a sitting president was actually deplatformed from social media. What that sent out, the message that sent out was कि आप कभी भी you can be taken off of some of the most important and powerful platforms at the whims and fancies of some powerful people and establishments. So that set into motion, things to break away from that establishment itself. So de-dollarization movement started, and when Elon Musk actually bought Twitter, the Twitter files happened. So what I'm trying to say is that now in a multipolar world where some people are so have such a strong urge to rule and control, while they're not the owners of the world, anymore, then that sets into motion forces and vectors which will start creating a situation in the world where things are going to kind of collide with each other. That may actually lead to violence and wars that we have not seen before. So this is my initial thought.
Okay, since I gave the pitch to him, let me take the second batting order. So I would say cricket
Shri
is in cricket is a Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram. See, when you apply dual standards, this is what happens. And this is a classic case. India's victory yesterday over Pakistan is a classic case. So Pakistanis are crying right now. I'm on the same topic. I'm not drifting away. I'm just using this entire thing as an example. So Pakistan team say Indians shouted Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram. But what about them? When they shout Allahu Akbar when we play India, when they shout their religious words to intimidate Indians playing cricket in the same way. That's the issue that is very important for all of us to know. I am an optimist, and I think global peace is possible, provided you want to do it. And that's my challenge of belief. Because as you see it, Deshji, I loved your line, linear optimization model. But yes, America always says we do whatever is good for America. We protect American interests. Why shouldn't others also protect their own interest? Why must any country subdue their own national interest for the sake of protecting or defending American national interest? That's the reason why the multipolar world has emerged now. But what interests me is to say is that more things change, they remain the same. Look at the history of mankind. We have always been at war with each other, force, resources, domination, and control, religious or resources. Put whatever consideration you want, put. It has been the same story ever since. And today's conflict is also, again, perhaps the nth version of jihad versus crusade. Form has changed a little bit here or a little bit there. So the domination of control, when you drive yourself with the religious sanction that the world will be like my religion, my way, or highway, you will always find new methods to have a conflict. And here is the issue. Sometimes there's something to do with the human mind as well. In a beautiful movie, my favorite movie, Sherlock Holmes and the Games of Shadows, it's very clearly said there. Professor Moriarty, the eccentric genius, criminal genius, says, human mind is wired to enjoy conflict. It all depends whether you are supplying bullets or bandages. That seems to be the story. That we have, America, our country, we have moved from any number of wars, from Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Ukraine, and now the theater has changed to this side. Anybody remember Ukraine? Think about it from that perspective. So I think global peace is possible. For that, my prescription is, regardless of what religious belief you practice, adopt Sanatan practices in your life. I'm reminded of Julia Roberts when she embraced Hinduism after doing a movie, Eat, Pray, Love, in India, and stayed in India for a couple of months. She said, I'm adopting Hindu life. There was a protest that you are a Catholic, how can you become a Hindu? She said, I don't have to change my religion. I'm accepting their way of life, which is, exact words, which is rather cool. So I'm suggesting to the world around us, embrace Sanatan principles, and you will instantly come to terms with the war as an unnecessary means of trying to dominate or control somebody. Second, and the last point in this particular thing, I'd say that in addition to Sanatan part, I am concerned about one thing. Look at Hamas, the weaponry they have. 80% of the global weapon sales happen by 5 Security Council members who are supposed to protect peace all over the world. When I was a private banker, there were 3 elements that we were supposed to sniff from our client. Not knowing client's money source was not an escape or not a reason for not knowing where the money came from. We had to know your client. KYC, I implemented that. 3 kinds of money. And this is, I'm telling you, a story of 40 years ago. 3 kinds of money that the global leadership was concerned about was money from prostitution and child sex racket, money from drug, and money earned from illegal arms sales. Sadly enough, all 3 counts continue just as ever. Nothing has changed. So, but if you want to change it, you can change it. It begins from point one, that United Nations Security Council 5 esteemed members, I'm saying it with a lot of chagrin and anger. If they wanted peace, they can do it, enforce arms sales, and I know how to sniff that money. We can all work on it together, and tomorrow it can be stopped. But peace is an elusive thing. Peace and war are the 2 sides of the same coin. You have to have it sometimes, but not the extent to which it is happening. Today, the cultural domination is very, very important. It's come through religion. And we are all advancing our same cause. Thank you.
So, happy Navratra to all viewers. And एक मान्यता है हमारे सनातन धर्म में कि जब आदि शक्ति का स्वरूप माँ दुर्गा आती हैं, so she chooses a different form of vehicle to come. So it's said that this time she's coming on elephant. If she comes on a horse, then the probability of war or friction in the society is more. So thankfully she's coming on horse, so that way I think
Elephant.
sorry, on the elephant, so that the global peace जो है जिसकी हम अभी बात कर रहे हैं, that will be probably possible. Now the question is, global peace a distant dream? What are we talking? Are we talking about the political peace, the geostrategic peace, or something else? Because जब तक there will be a disparity, there will be a basic minimum level hunger, faith related fight, and a lot of economical vested interest like de-dollarization, etc. तब तक the world peace may not be possible. But then that takes me to another factor is कि other than Sanatan, which Vibhuti mentioned, where there is a tons of prayer just on peace, we end up lot of our mantra saying Shanti, Shanti, Santi. But I haven't heard or I'm yet to see any such mantra or phrase in any non-Sanatan way of thinking, atheism included, where peace has been given that kind of a prominence. So peace is basically what a strong power sees the world order. And if a world order is not to the liking of 200 plus countries, then a peace is definitely a distant dream. That will be my opening statement.
Utsav ji?
See, there is the basic concept of global peace is elusive, and this is a question that get asked to all Miss Universe and Miss World contestants. Aditya ji, this is a standard question. How do you bring
विभूति जी
world
को पूछ
peace?
सकते हैं, विभूति जी को पूछ सकते हैं, हमारे पास मॉडल है इधर.
Ramp walker.
रैम वॉकर नहीं भाई, He was the main show. He was the New York pages.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, so see, my answer to this, is that there will never be global peace for the simple reason humanity is a dominating species. It is evolved and it has embraced ideologies, political, social, and religious, that are based on domination. And that domination is based on the simple reason that humanity needs to rule over nature and over other humans, uh, so that they can have everything for themselves. It's the only species that doesn't kill for food only. And that, I think, is at the core of our existence. And through evolution of dharma, a big chunk of humanity had tried to evolve the role of humanity from being a dominant, aggressive species to a coexistential species. In fact, if you study our dharmic scriptures, that has been the main effort of that evolutionary process, to how to become sustainable and live in coexistence with prakriti. And unfortunately, because we don't have dharma around the world, uh, we have religions that are based on perpetuating and even improving upon the nature of humanity to dominate. We will never have world peace as we see it now. And as all three speakers before me projected, and very good did a very good analysis of it, there are different ways in which global peace will not be achieved, and each one of you touched upon some of those aspects. So the lack of a mutually respectful world order rather than a rules based world order is one reason. The lack of equitable or even equal distribution of resources that is based on voluntary and mutual respect efforts, mutually respectful efforts, is lacking. So there are all these different reasons. And I mean, just look at the world right now. 30 years ago, nobody would have imagined that in the first half of the 21st century, we would be having uh, a religiously fanatic group named Islamic State that would be promoting slavery, killing people on the basis of their religion, just as if it was the 7th century. Nobody would have imagined that brothers who have spoken and shared a language and a culture for more than 1,000 years in Eastern Europe would be killing each other every day, almost 1,000 of them each other every day, on the orders of somebody sitting 3,000 miles away in a different land. So this is par for the course as now. And I think our current generation living today uh, should understand that they are living through a time in which every aspect of human progress in terms of our intellect and our respectfulness towards each other has been demolished completely. And now we are going to enter a phase in which there will be self-interest at the core of every nation state and civilization's um, uh, belief. And because of that, I think we are going to actually enter a phase of more war and more conflict rather than global peace. So in my opinion, Aditya ji, it's not just a distant dream, but I think we haven't even begun to conceive that dream yet.
You know, I will say, everything boils down to justice. So the definition of attacker and defender is blurred today. मतलब जो किसने को आक्रमण कर रहा है, कौन उसको अपने को बचा रहा है, वो तो definition out of the place now. And also the global bodies which were formed to create peace do not have anybody peaceful in them also. So we all know that how the United Nations has failed to prevent any war, and it's practically useless now, with India being out of it, 1.4 billion people out of it as a permanent member. And also the conflicts, all the conflicts that we see are originating in deliberately by people who want to create a world order controlled by them. It's like a win-win situation, win-lose situation, where somebody wants the other person to lose. So we see कि dharma is lacking, dharma का कोई existence ही नहीं है. And also the most of the major conflicts on the religion side originate from the same place where today the war is happening. All of them, like they have created one war over the other war. Earlier it was a which a mass execution of Jews by Hitler, and all those things happened before. So do you think that there is a need to change the system today, or do you think some other reason is there for these political happenings to happen and create more wars? Deshi?
So that is an excellent question, actually, because I think in the larger context of things, we actually forget how the different intelligence agencies and the different powers actually operate, right? So let me give you two different things that have been going on. So in history and how they are impacting the world of today. In the Islamic world, there are three main ideologues whose works have defined the jihad of today, the terrorism of today. One was Sayyid Qutb, one was Hassan al-Banna, and the third one was Maulana Maududi. Sayyid Qutb and Maulana Maududi were actually quite close because they had talked to each other, even Hassan al-Banna. And like these guys had worked together. Maulana Maududi was the one who actually created the commentary on Quran, which is even used until today to teach all the jihadis in Canada, US, UK, and everywhere else. Same goes for Sayyid Qutb and Hassan al-Banna. Now, Hassan al-Banna was the person who was in Egypt, and Sayyid Qutb was related to him, and like he was an ideologue. He was actually created by MI6, and then later on, the Nazis actually Hitler and the entire Nazi establishment took over that, and the first mosque in Berlin was actually created like way back in 1939 or something. After the collapse of Nazis, and the idea with the Nazis was that they will use these Islamists to go and sabotage Russia. The way they were trying to do was take all the minorities from Russia and then sabotage that within that through these Islamists, and that is why the mosque was created in Berlin, to create that subversive force. Now, when Nazis actually collapsed, at that time, CIA and MI6 again took over the ownership of this entire Muslim Brotherhood and the Islamists within the Indian subcontinent. By the way, Maulana Maududi was was under the patronage of Allama Iqbal. He was the one who actually brought him over, pushed him to actually create those commentaries, which have become the basis for all terrorism that happens in the Indian subcontinent. So CIA and they took over, and they created a subversive force of the Islamists, which they wanted to use everywhere in the world. So what Nazis thought about like doing to Russia, CIA and MI6 wanted to do to everywhere else. Now, it is also a fact that in 1941, the Mufti of Jerusalem, or the Palestinian Mufti, the biggest clergy there, he actually went to meet Hitler. He was the one who actually laid it out very clearly why the Jews should be completely annihilated, right? And that is what set into motion a lot of things. Hitler anyways was planning that, but this Mufti from Palestine or Jerusalem, he was the one who actually promised help. So you see, this whole thing that is happening today is not an accident. It was all planned by different forces at different times for different agendas. So when we say today that, oh, the Palestinians are fine, but Hamas is bad and all those things, we forget that at the basis of this, like the Palestinian mindset is no different from Hitler's mindset, is no different from Hamas's mindset, is no different from the Muslim Brotherhood mindset, because they all work together throughout. And that is how the world of today has come together. So we just cannot forget that. And when the 6 Day War happened, the mission of the six Arab countries, the Jordan and Egypt and all those like the countries, was this: to completely demolish and exterminate the Jews from the world itself, and especially from Israel. Like, it is like, I don't know why like Israel didn't have the same mission about the Arabs then. So, like, they would have been completely within their rights to do the same thing that was done to them. I mean, like, if Arabs like mission was to destroy like Israel, like, why didn't Israel have the same mission to destroy the Arabs then? Like, they would have been like just fine. But there is a difference in mindset. There's a friend of mine who said like earlier this morning that Christianity and Islam came from Judaism. And I corrected him. I said, they didn't come from Judaism. They were a competitor to Judaism. Their entire, from ground up, they were built to actually fight against Jews, not to be with them. So there is a difference, like that was there. So I think we need to look at things the way they are. So when you look at things the way they are, of how these forces, the CIA, the MI6, the Nazis, the Muslim Brotherhood, the like Hamas and Palestinians, they all came together, and the Western powers were using the Islamist powers to actually run their agenda, with the understanding that one day they can demolish them also. So they were basically a tool, and that is how they remain today. Because, like, you see what happened in Iraq, you see what happened in Iran, you see what happened in Afghanistan or Pakistan. Pakistan was used as a tool, like for the Islamist forces, like with the Islamist forces, and then like it has been like slowly being demolished. So that is how it works. Now when we look at that, now we can like go forward and analyze the world that is there today, and why it poses such a potent threat to the peace itself. So that would be my take.
Vibhuti ji,
Uday,
and let's
Uday
welcome
Kolatkar
Uday
ji.
Kolatkar ji is welcome to the show.
Good evening, everybody. Good morning, wherever you are. I'm so sorry. I thought the time was 9 o'clock, so I was having a nice long walk, and I rushed back on an auto rickshaw and came back. And so, basically, to introduce myself, I don't know if people know me. I'm a retired ex-Air Force fighter pilot, and I flew during the Kargil operations also in India, and also I was in the staff college as a directing staff of our Defense Services Staff College, as well as the School of Artillery. And subsequently, I was when I left the Air Force, I had to, because of my family issues and all, I joined the airlines, and I was there for about 20 years. But I have written some articles and basically for magazines, defense magazines also. My specialty would be the use of air power in various kind of conflicts or developing conflicts, which is quite apparent now in every kind of conflict. Things come from the air and they catch everybody by surprise, whether it's people coming on hang gliders, or whether it's people coming using drones, or whether people using space, satellite technology, whatever. So that is my specialty. So global peace is actually a state of mind. That's my view. If you want global peace, you have to be in a kind of a, you know, our culture, which is from India itself. Probably there were wars and all fought way back, and we've forgotten all the lessons learned. But our culture had come up with this kind of way of life by which peace would be guaranteed and we would respect each other and live in a harmonious way. However, that has, because of the, like what he was just covering about the different kind of religions which came in, and thereafter they kind of hijacked the evolution of the humankind, uh, which otherwise was in a dharmic way trying to achieve peace. So basically, where we have reached now is a situation of perpetual war. Whether the war occurs between nations, whether it occurs between communities, whether it occurs, within the family sometimes, and that is not a distant dream. I think the human race keeps learning the same things again and again, and then also ending up destroying itself, like what happened after the Mahabharata, and subsequently what probably will happen in the next maybe 2030. God, I hope it's further. But the way things are going, global peace is non. As long as people are going to covet other people's property, their family, their wives, their the wealth, and they covet the power. Power. People are very power hungry. They're going to use any means possible to grab power, whether it is you know faith, or whether it is military power, or whether it's ideology like communism. People are going to go for grabbing power, and therefore the humans are going to be perpetually in this uh, grab world and eventually end up destroying themselves, which could be happening. Now, how do we stop it? Yes, we have to be self-sufficient, powerful enough to stop it, and sensible. Common sense is the most important thing. Now, if we are going
Absent.
to, sorry, please continue.
No, no, no.
You
I'm saying common sense is conspicuous by its absence nowadays.
absolutely. The most absent thing is common sense. And so basically, where are we going with this? We are going to end up in a situation where they're going to be. So already there's a big division between the Islamic ideology countries and the rest of the world in a large way. The people who are using the Islamic ideology, or Islamic ideology countries, to further their agenda. For example, China is trying to combat the world. In an extent, Russia is also doing it, because people used, various means to bring them down to their knees. And so basically a humiliation which happened in the First World War. It happened because of the First World War. The Second World War happened because the Second World War, when the Israeli state was born. The Third World War is probably already underway. It's only that we haven't felt the full repercussions of it. How do we deal with this situation? You will have to join a bloc. That's the problem. That's India has already decided that it is going to go against terrorism and all. But there's some ideologies which only use terrorism to further their power or control or influence over certain other maybe peace-loving communities. They're going to use ideology to do that. They're doing that in India. They're doing that in different countries all over the world. And that is going to cause a perpetual state of conflict, which is actually what we are going to achieve by what certain people want to happen. Because even if you see in the Islamic ideology, they want a perpetual state of conflict to happen. because in that perpetual state of conflict, they will manage to use fear. Fear is the key, and a lot of people are afraid for their lives. So they'll use fear to influence people's minds. Fear for your family, fear for your loved ones, fear for your country, fear for your life. And fear is going to be the biggest factor which is going to cause an issue with where the world goes. So, how do we fight fear? Sorry. How do we fight fear? We fight it like what basically our culture used to bring out, that okay, don't worry if your life is going to go and all that. Don't worry about it. Be ready to fight. Initially, it was like we had a person called. Uh, he was called a Mahatma, and he used to say, "Okay, just accept death or whatever." But in our case, we have fortunately gone further from that, and we are going to fight for our country. Definitely, we have a lot of loyalty to our country and our culture, and therefore, I think the only actual beacon people are looking forward to is Bharat. In my view, I might be wrong. There might be people who don't agree with me. I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that. But if you really look into yourself and look into your culture, you will find the answers are there. And in its evolution process, nobody will find that initially. It's only if they're brought into this culture that they will be able to understand it. Hopefully, what people did achieve in between was to harm the way that our youngsters were brought up, including me. I was also brought up in a kind of a different environment. Luckily, I went to a military school, and there was a lot of culture taught to us in those military schools. And therefore, I respect the military way of life in India. I think that's a real big answer to a lot of things which are happening in the world. And if you see, there are a lot of articles now coming up that people are looking to the Indian military for guidance on how to deal with these small scale conflicts and terrorism, and going and infiltrating into uh, the enemy's workspace through using psychological and other means, even financial means, to get into their space and find out how to overcome them. So this battle is a good battle because from this will emerge good. I'm ready for it. I've always been ready, and I'm ready now also at the age of 65. I'm
Jai
okay
Hind.
for it. And I'm sure a lot of the military is developing in that way, thanks to the total removal of colonial influences into our military now, with these efforts of the present government. There will be a time when our military will actually be more powerful, because it will look at the inner strengths of our culture to develop their capacity to achieve their objectives. I'm not going to say inflict maximum damage on the enemy and all, because sometimes you can kill everybody, but you still haven't achieved anything. So to convince the enemy in certain ways, whether it's through coercion or otherwise, that the path that they're going in is self-destructive, their families will suffer, they will suffer. And I think I would feel that we can forget about these Abrahamic religions and all. Why? Because not because they are irrelevant. They are very much relevant. But we should focus on our strengths. Forget about their strengths. Why are we bothered about their strengths? We are an individual society which has probably, they say, it was all over the world. Maybe in Egypt, Ramesses, his name came from where? In Rome. Where did the name of Rome? Where did Rome come from? All these things worldwide, even in South America, in Mexico. So there's so many things about ancient cultures which nobody wants to study, because they're focused on the Abrahamic religions and what they prescribe. We should try to put them aside for the time being and focus on our strengths, because if we don't do that, we will lose what we have inside us. and we will just try to follow something else, which is happening. A lot of our youngsters are doing that. A lot of my generation people are so brainwashed that they don't accept that our culture was a culture, that Sanskrit was a good language. They don't accept it. They're so stubborn in their mind that they feel that, oh no, that's all bullshit, that's all old, and we should now think about other ways of life. That's my view. I'm sure there will be people who consider that maybe my view is biased or whatever, but I'm not bothered about that, because I know our strengths. I know my country's strengths, and I'm going to follow that totally. All my life, I'm going to do that, no matter what happens.
Thank you, Deji, for wonderful lines. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Vibhuti ji, please continue that point which Desh Kapoor ji was also talking.
No, the issue is very interesting here, that there is always the quintessential thing called hope, and that's what we mankind survive. So I'm seeing the streaks of the wisdom coming from all of you here, speakers here, because even though peace may be difficult to attain, but it's definitely possible to do. And as Udayji said, and all of you have a point here, it's possible provided we look at our own inner strengths. And I said in my opening statement, peace is possible. Without changing your religion or faith or practices, adopt Sanatan way of life. The moment you adopt Sanatan way of life, you are reducing the element of conflicts dramatically. And that's what we have to focus. And this narrative has to be conveyed to the world. As Utsavji and Sharadji and everybody said, domination and control remains the hallmark around which we try to indulge in occupying resources or snatching a piece of land. That remains a thing. We don't have that philosophy. This is what is important. And, I think Deshji earlier pointed out the historical narrative of how this entire structure was created by Hitler in Germany for a particular goal in Russia, and how America and MI6 took over that for the rest of the world. So this kind of a chess play will go on. And my thought process is very identical to that you have to resist that. You have to indulge in your dharmic war. Dharmic war is always won. And that's why I have faith in our Sanatan practices. We may go through pitfalls, we may go through troubles, but our philosophy, the way when I talk with my American colleagues and friends, they say, why the hell don't you tell us of the beauty of your faith? This is our failing, that we confuse the word between propagation versus proselytization. We don't indulge in proselytization. They indulge in that. So when we talk about propagation, is to accept and listen to me. Two things that I wanted to say. There was a mention of common sense. I read a book. It's time for the world to abandon common nonsense and adopt uncommon sense. That's the thing that we have to move towards. This common sense is a very English word play to make you feel important and at the same time stupid. So, don't fall for that. The other part which I wanted to say, the world is moving towards a cultural domination. The warfare has changed. We know it has moved from physical warfare. Now you can stop the water supply, electricity, and internet, and you will drive people crazy, right? You will make them helpless. The war, asymmetrical or otherwise, has changed dramatically. What we call in our work, the soldier today has to keep into account the Mogadishu Mile. You are not only a soldier, but you're also a peacekeeper at the same time. This is what is important to understand. And I see that in Europe it is happening. The cultural religious war is not going to end. And this is what the world has to remember. Cultural domination is the new way to do it. And look at Europe. If you guys follow soccer at all, look at Europe. France, PSG, all the important football teams, they have significant ownership from Middle East now. Real Madrid, they were told to remove the cross from their insignia for $2 billion that Qatar invested in them. Manchester City in Manchester is owned by people from Etihad Group. You have Emirates in Arsenal. Manchester United has just made Qatari ownership drop out of the race. You know why? Because Manchester United ownership Glazers are Jews. Not after this, they will not buy it. So there is a resistance happening in Europe as well. The cultural domination of Europe is pretty complete, in my opinion. And if Qataris had bought over Manchester United, do you know something? The entire northern UK would have been under cultural influence of Islamic belief. These are resistances happening, my dear friends. So I am of the opinion global peace is possible. I'm an incorrigible optimist, provided we know how to advance our agenda, which we are weak at. So, कहते हैं कि history is littered with corpses of men and women who forgot the lessons of history. So that's what is important for us to bear in mind. And, I remain hopeful. I believe dharma will win. I believe dharmic war will win. And I believe the sense and sensibility will return because, you can say Allahu Akbar when you fight India in the cricket stadium. But if I say Jai Shri Ram, then it is religious torture, right? As you sow, so you reap. And that's the important part. जब हमने आवाज उठाई तो आपकी फट गई. So that's what is important. We have to and we must.
Sharaji.
Okay. So the way I see is I see the world from post-COVID era. That's where a lot of turmoil happened. And then we had Ukraine and Russia war, which did not meet the prophecy of Mr. Huntington's Clash of Civilization because it was primarily between the two countries, two faith, similar faith, Christianity. So the hype create nahi hua. Then happened the unfortunate event of Israel being attacked by a terrorist group, and because of the Jews and the Islamic forces, that's where the class of civilization came into prominence and the world peace and all those things and potential of this escalating uh, affecting India with 1.45 billion population created a lot of distress in that region. So I'll keep my discussion on the India part here right now. The I2U2 project looks like it's been impacted because of the ongoing. There was a very good momentum build between Israel and the Arab world, Palestine excluded, where they were coming into all kinds of agreement, which was going to benefit this region and the world. That has been impacted. And I was talking to a lot of my Muslim friends in India, and I was just trying to understand why there is a vertical split in Bharat regarding support for Palestine and support for Israel, right? Prime Minister Modi supported Israel, and he's also a friend of Palestine. He got I think, the highest award from the state of Palestine some time back. So why, I was just wondering, why is this problem? And then, when you go back to history, I see that, I'm told that the Jews were, these Jews came around Jews religion and people, they basically came around 4,000 years back, then 2,000 years back, Christianity came, and then Islam, 1,400 years back. So if Jews came 4,000 years back, why did they leave this land and where did they go? What was the problem? I was just scanning through that, and I found that they have always been persecuted since 17 CE, when their second temple, very religious temple, was broken by the Romans. And the land of Palestine, where Jerusalem is, you have all kinds of kingdom ruling, from Assyrian, Egyptian, Persian, Canadian. I think there is something called Palestines, not this Palestine. And then came the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman Empire, was basically Islamist force. And from Ottoman Empire, who took this region? British. And this is where all kinds of hodgepodge and problems started when they started dividing the countries 90-degree, as Desji was mentioning, linear optimization. The linear struck to me. So 90-degree is something, this geometry is something which Britishers loved it, but they only know the straight line, whereas, Sanatan believes in circle. So the way they started cutting the land and the countries 90-degree, that created a lot of problem. And uh, one of the big reason of these Gaza Strip and the West Bank and the Golan Height, all these things are, I would say, I would definitely give it to the British for creating all kinds of a problem for both sides. And then, we know, and rest of the history we know, the Oslo Accord between Rabin, Clinton, and Yasser Arafat, and all those things happened. uh, Two of them are no more available. How I see this in India perspective. So again, going back to India, I see entire Indian Muslim population, and 20 crores of them Indians. They are all with Palestine. And then I was wondering, why are they with Palestine? Not one of them supporting the government of India stand. Okay, forget about the Zionist Israel, but you have to stand for your country. And then I found that their anxiety and fear and all kind of thing which makes them behave like that is not only religion is one aspect, but it's the Islamic symbol Asfar Mosque, which is the third sacred mosque, they call it, after Mecca, Medina. Their security is more important to them than Palestine. This is my understanding. I may be wrong, because Palestine is not liked even by the people of Palestine, are not liked even by the people of Egypt and Jordan, because when the country was being divided and formation was happening, there was a proposal to have this country within Egypt or within Jordan, and they both said no, because we know that how Jordan initially helped Palestine, and then the Palestinians went against the Jordan king, and Jordan king brought Ziaul Haq of Pakistan, and then some 25,000 Palestinians were killed by the Pakistanis, who are now supporting this cause. So for India, again, we are not going deep in the history because of time. So for India, uh, again, my out of box thinking, and I may be wrong, what India should do is, currently the Al Aqsa Mosque, which is the reason why Indian Muslims are on the road, that India should volunteer, because India is a friend of Israel and Palestine, to take over that mosque, hand it toward the Archaeological Survey of India under KK Muhammad, if religion is the important thing for them. And in that mosque premises, let India propose to make a consulate. With consulate comes your security parameters, your forces, right? Mr. Ajit Doval and Mr. Jay Shankar, and to give the to solve the anxiety and fear for the safety of this mosque, India as a world leader, G20 leader, steps in and say that no, I we make this area safeguard. We take the ownership of this, right? A Sanatan people having no vested interest in the Abrahamic divide and rule. We take this, and this will be a big messaging back home also, where you are fighting against your Waqf board and all your historical temples under them and all this conflict. So you start first, getting over this mosque, show to the world what you can do as a leader, and let the world figure out about the fight. We are not going to tell Israel to stop cleaning the Gaza Strip. It is United Nations, SCO, BRICS, and G20's thing to solve. We should not get into that. But for India to become a 4+ trillion economy, it is very important that the internal distress has to be kept under the rug, and Muslims should not be hitting the road. And this is one statecraft which the government of India should definitely use for giving the statement to the world and also to the local Muslim population. That is one. The second thing is, to test the hypocrisy of the 50 OIC country and their unity. what India could propose is, the two-state solution, which has been there for a very long time. Let the entire Gaza Strip land be either put inside the Egypt, Jordan, or Syria, and Israel should part that size of the land along with some infrastructure build up money, and let clean the Gaza Strip. Gaza Strip is same as British divided India between East Pakistan and West Pakistan, and leaving a corridor so that the distress between the two continued. This is the same model. Why do you have a Gaza Strip and then West Coast where the entire Palestine is? Merge it with either because it is not a historical division. The division was created in a modern world. So these are the problems which India could propose, but India should not take side directly, because for India, 5 to 7 trillion economy is the first goal. Once you have that goal, you start playing bigger role on any world platform. So that's my say, Aditya ji. Thanks.
Utsav ji.
आदित्य जी एक बार प्रश्न बताएंगे दोबारा. I forgot the actual question.
The original point was there is no clear definition of attackers and defenders in the entire society today. Justice is not there, and most of the conflicts continue because nobody wants to clearly define attacker and defender. And then all the like, for example, instead of apologizing for terrorism, people are bringing a counterpoint, and they are appearing successful in many of those things. That was the original question.
Good, very good question. So my response to it is, there will never be, with the human intellect in play, there will never be a definition of an attacker and a defender, because the human intellect will dig to something just before when we have defined the point of beginning that defines the attacker, and come up with something that will put the attacker as the defender and the defender as the attacker. That's the human mind's intellectual capability, and it will always happen. Moral equivalence is a human construct, and it will remain that way. We cannot change it. So as long as there is moral equivalence, the line between an attacker and a defender is always going to be blurred. But one thing that we can change is the definition of ideologies that are always going to be attackers, because it's not based on any human action, it's based on divine intervention. That is what we need to define going forward, and that might help minimize some aspect of who the attacker is. For example, we need to really condemn globally the concept of jihad and the definition of a believer and a non-believer, because that is not based on an action, reaction, or moral equivalence narrative. That is based on a divine intervention narrative, where a human is always defined to be at a lower end of the stick because of who they do not believe in or what they do not believe in. So I think that part Deshi addressed a little bit when he was answering this question, because he brought up Maududi and how Maududi's understanding and definition of Islam actually has been the cause of violence in the Indian subcontinent for the last 70 years. I would go back further and say that one major role that similar mindsets played, and it goes back to the 10th century, is the following that Al-Ghazali elicited from the entire Islamic world. The scholar named Al-Ghazali basically de-rationalized whatever little rationalism was in Islam, derived from early Greek and Roman philosophies, Aristotelian philosophy, and it made Islam into this blind zombie system that literally has to constantly be in a state of war to survive and thrive. And Al-Ghazali, I think, is the predecessor of Maududi in many ways, Al-Banna and Maududi. And I think similar such individuals and their outcomes have to be discussed at a serious level in the global thought leadership. And maybe that will help reduce some of this tendency to violence. It will not take it away. But I know to bring it closer from a more ethereal observation to a more practical observation, I would say that what you see today, this entire effort to get into a multipolar world order, that will bring about more violence in the short term. in the end game, it might actually bring stability and long-term sustainable equilibrium amongst nations. And that is where we have to strive to bring in the dharmic concepts to make it more acceptable at a global level, uh, especially that of mutual respect and sustainability in humans existence, not just energy and all those things. But in the short term, I do not see any way of getting out of this multipolar world order that we are heading towards. Uh, it's almost like a sagar manthan that is happening at a geopolitical level, and in this sagar manthan there will be lives lost. I keep bringing it up again. I mean, what is happening in Eastern Europe between two brothers, literally Ukrainians and Russians, on the orders of people living 3,000 miles away, is a tragedy in itself, and it's going to be repeated in many other parts of the world, unfortunately. From as Hindus, as Indians, of people of Indian origin, uh, we have to ensure that such tragedy doesn't befall us in any way. And if preemptive steps need to be taken to do that, I think they need to be taken. And I think India, under its current leadership, is probably the best equipped it can be to deal with situation like that. I
So
think
will
I'm going to head out, Aditi ji, because
sure.
I have to go somewhere.
I could see that. I could see that. That's why I said you finish that. Okay, we'll do a very quick now. We'll take everybody's questions and just 1 minute answers. So, Vibhuti ji, do you think the only way R is asking is Sanatan Bharat with strong army? And just 1 minute answer we keep so we can take maximum questions.
I think India, Sanatan is the way, Dharma is the way, and we already have this strong army. Wing commander here is the testimony to that. And the important part is that Indian Army occupies a wonderful position in the world, so it is not a light matter. And I think we should be ready to fight. That's important. You have to remember Lakshman Rekha must be operated, which has to be more serious than Obama's red line.
And great answer, great
Thank you.
answer. That line. The one thing I will add because I don't see many questions there. Okay, Rinku Yadav ji's question is uh, the real historical origins of Jews, can they be trusted in long term or when in power? Well, there is a new video coming out tomorrow of Shailendra Singh. Do watch it. He has covered in detail on our show. But anyone would like to cover this in quickly, let us know, please. Any of the panel. Deshji, the origin of historical origin of Jews.
See I mean, like we were saying, we know that like Jews were there in that area like for a long time. I mean, like starting off, and Christianity and Islam, and like anyways came later on. But I think the right question now is not about who was there originally or not there originally. As the lines blur, because like for example, both my parents came from Lahore, so the origin of I mean in Pakistan, like today's Western Punjab, like our origin was there. So does that mean that we go and claim them, like claim all that? Because
We
now
should.
the
You
national
should. You should. Your national song has Sindh.
yeah, I know, but the national boundaries have changed, and so I, as a person, kind of just cannot go there and start throwing stones, because that will not help. If something needs to, if something needs to be changed in national boundaries, that needs to be changed either by um, like by the diplomatic means or by the means of wars. So that is how it happens, right? And if in wars over time, if Israel has become the main power there, then that's how it is. So I think just suck it up and move on with life.
Uh, I would like to add something here, Deshji, and you are a thinker and you write wonderful. Please do subscribe to Drishtikon, and there's a newsletter he comes out, and he's actually working on it while he's speaking. So, so the I would like to say add one thing that nation state concept has resulted in all these wars today. Arbitrarily drawing up borders and creating divisions within nations and occupying lands on the basis of nation state concept has resulted in all these wars today, according to me, in all my books I've written. So, what do you think on it, gentlemen? Udayji, would like to add something?
Yeah, of
Mic is
course,
yours.
it's very important topic. Yeah, you can see before there was any lines drawn, there were still battles going on within the community, for little territories and all that. Slowly, those territories expanded and became nation states. Those nation states were based on ideologies or ways of thinking, and so basically, yes. But the main thing what has caused these problems is the religion. I think the main battlefront here is religion, and the clubbing of people into one particular kind of god they want to follow, and not allowing anybody else to, or if anybody doesn't agree with them, to destroy them. That is the one which has gone beyond nation states. So, uh, nation is very important to keep yourself alive, because we found, even whether you're tribes or not, we were depending on each other to stay alive, because we were constantly under attack by other tribes. So the same thing prevails now, and it's only that the nations are attacking each other. If you're weak, people will come and trample over you, and that is something which has happened in our past also. So let's be focused on the fact that the nation is extremely important, and India is on the stage now because it's a powerful nation state, like you said, financially, and hopefully military also will become Atmanirbhar, and we'll have our weapons, whatever required to defend ourselves. So that is what I feel.
Vibhutiji, any closing line on this topic?
I just wanted to say that there are a lot of topics we have talked about. Fabulous conversation. I enjoyed every bit of it. I wanted to request the viewers and the panelists here, if you have not, kindly do Google the Hamas covenant. That will give you an idea whether peace is possible or not, because it is very important part of Shatrubodh and Purva Paksh, as we call it in our way of life. You have to know that, and therefore it is very important for us to know who we are dealing with. If we are you just as you cannot convert an elephant into becoming a meat-eating animal, hyenas will not become vegetarian overnight, or probably never. So it's very important to know who you are dealing with, because you can't have a one-way theology that you believe my way or highway. That's the main part of the conflict. So that's where I would say. And it's very interesting, because in that, we did a show yesterday on that. It is important. Article 13 of that Hamas covenant clearly states rejection of all negotiated peace settlement, because it means surrendering to the infidels. And what does the preamble say? Obliterate Israel just as Islam has obliterated others before it. But if you're driven with that kind of an ideology, what is there to negotiate, really? That's my appeal to all the viewers today, is to get to know the truth. Once you know the truth, all of you know, I always end my show by saying Satyamev Jayate. And if Satyamev Jayate has to happen, we all have to stand for the truth and fight for the truth. If you don't do that, it remains an empty slogan. Thank you very much.
Charatji, closing lines, and then Desh Kapoorji, and then Uday Kolatkarji, wing commander. Uday Kolatkar.
Okay, so very quickly, this Hamas attack was a bad thing, but from military perspective, it was a good learning. I read a lot of news where Indian military is studying on the strategy of that multiple attack, and I think that gives me an idea that from the entire Rajasthan, Punjab, and all the border areas till Arunachal. India, the government of India could have a program just like Agniveer. You can have 25 lakhs a selected youth and arm them, give them arm training, give them a dharma training, like education as well, have them recorded in some kind of a thana, some kind of a record, give them weapon, give them bikes for a terrain specific bikes. And a number definitely counts. It's no more air bombing or all those carpet bombing. If a similar attack happens on India from any region, number and youth will matter. And I think this is something which India should definitely do to procure. Thanks.
Desh Kapoor ji.
So this entire the Hamas attack and all that, there are like many narratives, right? There are many analysis going on. One of the analysis is that this was actually part of or backed by China. Like if you see whatever is coming out from China and Russia, like you'll see that they are actually backing Hamas as well as the Palestinians, and this may be a Chinese strategy to open and deepen three main war zones or like war theaters. Like this is one where Israel, its ally, is going to be sucked in, and then Iran joins, and that creates far more problems. Like Ukraine is always there, and then the third could be in Asia with Taiwan. Now, so one of the things that I see is that yes, this was a very like bold kind of attack by Hamas and very well thought about and all those things. But what it also does is open up the eyes of a lot more people. Like was a Saudi Israeli or sorry, like Arab Israeli, proshma, was that like some kind of like strategy to keep this coming behind the scenes. Now, if that is true, if that was just a way to actually put Israel in a like kind of a sleeping mode, then I think what we also need to see is all those awards that have been given by Saudis, the Egyptians, and the UAE as well as the Palestinians to Modi ji. Is that also a war strategy? So will what was done to Israel be done to India? So I think we really need to see this thing through in a much deeper way. And one of the things which Hamas attack has done, as bold as this was almost a like step up and replica of 26/11, is to see what can next happen and take lessons from that. And Wing Commander Kolhatkar ji is here. I think like he's a better source of that or like mind to think through that like than I am. So I'll leave it to him.
Uday ji, please go ahead.
So encouraging to hear everybody. I'm so happy that I've joined this. And thank you, Aditya ji, because it's a fantastic thing. And this is something which and the satsang also is a very important thing. When you go to the temples, you just go there, do the namaste and maybe some puja and all that, and then leave. But we have to have these kind of interactions, maybe in temples, maybe wherever we can. Somebody gave that question: what do worldwide Sanatanis do to? So I'm saying we have to think ourselves as a tribe. Like the Jews were a tribe which were was sent all over the world, and but they're united back during the creation of Israel. So something similar like that might be happening for the Hindus also in the future. Don't take things for granted. The world is shifting, and it may be gradual, it may be very sudden. So we have to get together. We have to, during our satsangs and all that, we must also talk about these kind of things which have been brought out. This is the only way to bring about our unity. Unity will give us strength to remain as a group and give us mutual support. Suppose somebody else's daughter is being raped, don't just turn away. You are a Hindu, she's a part of your tribe. You have to defend her like your sister, your daughter. So this is the kind of thing which has to come out if Hindus want to survive through these next I put it maybe 20 years, 30 years, and we preserve our ideology. Our main ideology, no, I wouldn't call it ideology, our main culture has to be preserved for future. This is our duty. It's a dharma yudh going to happen. Please take it like that. It's a dharma youth, and we have to use our strong cultures to get together and be ready to take on this thing. And it's so wonderful to see all such eminent people. I'm so happy to see you all, and it makes me very, very confident of our future that we have good people to lead our people in there and bring this kind of unity into them. I am really, it's very important. I mean, you mustn't take it as a something you can lay back on and say, no, I'm not going to take it seriously. It is so important. I can foresee it happening. I mean, being in the Air Force, I've seen how Kargil happened. It was through lethargy it happened. Before that, all the other wars which happened through lethargy, we managed to come out thanks to our military and thanks to some core values. We have to keep those core values in Sanatanis all over the world. And that is the only way. We should also be able to get all our Hindus back from worldwide necessary to India if they don't have any place, if they're being persecuted. They should be able to be brought back to India without any problems. They should be able to be here. What's happening in certain states is that the Hindus who come in from Pakistan, they're being persecuted by our own governments. Their houses are being bulldozed and destroyed by our own government. It happened in Rajasthan, and they were going around homeless. It happened during the partition. How terribly your parent, probably Desji will be able to say that, because I have a lot of friends, including a lot of people who were from partition came back to India, and they were treated very badly. So this kind of thing should not be allowed to happen in India. And thanks to Modi ji and his government, maybe we will be able to preserve some kind of sanity in our culture and understand the strengths of it and promote them. Thank you so much. That's what
Thank you.
my
And
idea
this,
is that.
this was an Indian American panel, and from Bharat we have a representative, Wing Commander Uday Kolatkar ji, and thank you all for joining today. And
Wait. There was a very important question that came from Moh Maya. That was a very relevant question. And since आज दुर्गा पूजा शुरुआत है नवरात्रि की, उस प्रश्न का मैं छोटा सा जवाब उसको बताऊंगा. So please bring that up. That how do Sanatanis prepare in Bharat and otherwise? So that question, I have a very simple suggestion. Thank you, Moh Maya ji. आपका नाम भी अच्छा है, मोह और माया दोनों जो आपने बना के रखा है. तो इसका एक ही तरीका है. शस्त्र और शास्त्र दोनों की हमें उपासना करनी होगी कि सिर्फ शास्त्र पढ़ के विद्वान होने से कुछ नहीं होता. Your knowledge, information is useless if you don't apply it. Wing Commander is an example. Learning how to fly is one thing, but then going and doing it is yet another. Now, in our company, we work on turnaround strategies, and we turn around that we give the example of sports and armed forces. These are the two businesses, if I may say so, or occupations in which you are in a state of constant readiness. And the constant readiness comes because you are willing to learn and you are always committed to doing the practice. Practice, practice, and practice. That's where the perfection comes from. So my suggestion to you would be to every Sanatani, शस्त्र और शास्त्र दोनों का प्रयोग करना हमें जानना है. Pen is mightier than the sword on a piece of paper. It will not serve you any purpose in the battleground. And likewise, sword is used in the battleground. You can't write with it. Let's kind of get real with ourselves. That's very important. Thank you, Mohammed.
मेरा इसमें थोड़ा सा ऐड करूंगा मोह माया जी के लिए. नाम अच्छा है, मोह माया. तो आई नो इट्स अ स्क्रीन नेम, रियल नेम पता नहीं कौन है.
हाँ, वो जो भी हो.
But it's a screen name. But anyway, my answer to through Moh Maya to everybody else is कि मोह माया से दूर हटे पहली बात. So be real. अभ्यास योग युक्तेन चेतसा नन्यगामिना. So you do practice, and yoga yuktena means practice yoga. Yoga can be anything: karma yoga, jnana yoga, buddhi yoga. And the easiest process is Harinam. We say it in the Shastras, everyone. And Wing Commander Uday Kolatkar ji is also yogi also. He just came from a yoga show, yoga practice. So practice yoga at home since you're from India, if you're from India, and practice completely. Bhagavad Gita is there. And Guru Sadhu Shastra भी बोलते हैं. And शस्त्र जो है बाहर से मारता है, शास्त्र अंदर से मारता है. So Shastra makes you stronger inside. Shastra is used once you are stronger inside, because any military man, Udayji will confirm that moral courage is more important than physical courage, and moral courage guides armies to win a battle. So be ready for that. एंड उसके बाद आपको पॉलिटिक्स समझ में आएगा, जियो पॉलिटिक्स. और जियो पॉलिटिक्स अगर अच्छी तरह समझना है, जस्ट रीड द 16 चैप्टर ऑफ भगवद गीता. In those first 30 shlokas, you'll get everything. Udayji, you want to add something, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking what you said is so important. There's something which Chinese have talked about, and they published a book also. It's called unrestricted warfare.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's followed by even the Islamics also. Because, person who I was telling you about, the friend of mine from way back, and he got very offended by something I said. He was a Muslim guy. He was also an Air Force officer. And he was so offended. And, he said, I started threatening me and stuff like that. And suddenly, yesterday I just called him. I said, what's up, man? What's up? And suddenly he became, oh, I'm so sorry, apologetic. I said, you're going from there to there, like as a, he's my biggest friend and all that, So this is unrestricted warfare, actually. He has changed his tone because I called him up and I challenged him on the phone. So he has changed his tone. So he suddenly realizes I'm more of an asset if I'm his friend. And this is what I'm talking about. What Sanatanis have to know, because we are too straightforward, we either say bullshit but we have to learn to adapt to, if we have to keep a goal in mind, keep your family alive, keep your culture alive, keep your country alive. This is what we have to do. And whatever you need to do to achieve this, whether it's, serious stuff like maybe even if you have to kill somebody, you have to save your family, you have to kill them. That's it. You have to be ready to do that, because your karma is not defined by, it is legally constricted, yes, but you have to be within the legal limits, but nobody's stopping you from self-defense. If your family is going to be threatened, you have to be ready to do that, and if you find somebody being threatened, a weaker person being threatened, you have to help them. So I'm saying you have to go from that extent to even being a very good friend to somebody who might be but you have to achieve your objectives. Your objectives must be defined by maybe the Bhagavad Gita, like you said. So that is one thing I wanted to mention.
Thank you.
And that is what we
And
follow.
thank you all the viewers for joining, and thank you Desh Kapoor ji. Do subscribe to Desh Kapoor's newsletter at drishtikon.com. Vibhuti Jha, do subscribe to Sattology, to Jaipur Dialogues channel, Jaipur Dialogues USA, as well as Jaipur Dialogues India. And Sharad Mohan ji, buy his books. Search Sharad Mohan on Sattology on Amazon and get the books. And if you want to get my books, then search Sattology on Amazon. You'll see all my books over there. And do subscribe to the channel. Let us know your feedback always. And Udayji is joined from India, so you can connect with him from India. He's from mine and Vibhuti Jha's common town. So I will just give the hint. In India.
Okay.
So that with that we end the show, and आप लोग यहीं पे रहिए. We'll just end the show right now. Just saying.
Thank you.
Thank you.